Never before in history have there been so many people on Earth as right now. Our numbers have skyrocketed from 1 billion in 1800 to 2.3 billion in 1940, 3.7 billion in 1970, and 7.4 billion in 2016. The world population increased fourfold in the last century, so what can we expect for the next century? And what does population growth mean for our future? Will there be mass migration, overcrowded slums in megacities covering continents, diseases and pollution, chaos and violence over energy, water and food, and a human species focused only on sustaining itself? Will population growth destroy our way of life, or is this prophecy just ungrounded panic? In the 1960s, population growth reached an unprecedented rate, which led to apocalyptic prophecies. The poor would procreate endlessly and overrun the developed world. The legend of overpopulation was born. But it turns out high birth rates and the population explosion are not permanent features of some cultures or countries, but rather part of a four-step process the whole world is going through: the demographic transition. Most developed countries have already made the transition, while other countries are doing it right now. Let's go back to the 18th century, when the entire world, including Europe, was in the first stage of the demographic transition. By today's standards, Europe was worse off than a developing region, suffering from poor sanitation, poor diets, and poor medicine. A lot of people were born, but lots of them died just as fast, so the population hardly grew. Women had between 4 and 6 children, but only 2 of them would reach adulthood. Then the Industrial Revolution happened in the UK and brought the greatest change in human living conditions since the Agricultural Revolution. People went from being peasants to workers. Manufactured goods were mass-produced and became widely available. The sciences flourished and advanced transportation, communication and medicine. The role of women in society shifted and created the conditions for their emancipation. Slowly, this economic progress not only formed a middle class, but also raised standards of living and healthcare for the poor working population. The second transition stage started. Better food supplies, hygiene and medicine meant people stopped dying all the time, especially so at a very young age. The result was a population explosion, doubling the UK's population between 1750 and 1850. The main reason families used to have lots of children was that only a few of them were likely to survive. Now that had changed, so the third stage of the transition was set in motion, fewer babies were conceived, and population growth slowed down. Eventually, a balance emerged. Fewer people were dying and fewer children were born, so the death rate and birth rate became stable. Britain had reached the fourth stage of the demographic transition. This didn't only happen in the UK. More and more countries went through the 4 stages. First, many births and many deaths due to bad living conditions. Second, better living conditions leading to fewer deaths and a population explosion. Third, fewer deaths resulting in fewer births, and population growth came to an end. But if birth rates have dropped so much, why is the population still growing so fast? Well, the children born in the population explosion of the 70s and 80s are having kids themselves now, leading to a noticeable spike in overall population. But they are having far fewer children on average than their parents. The average today is 2.5, it was 5 40 years ago. So as this generation gets older and fertility declines further, the rate of population growth will keep on slowing. This is true for every country. In the West, we tend to overlook progress in other regions of the world, but actually most of the world's countries have made it to the 4th stage. Just look at Bangladesh. In 1971, the average woman had 7 kids, but 25% of them would die before the age of 5. In 2015, the mortality rate was down to 3.8% and women had only 2.2 kids on average. This is the rule, not an exception. We're not special, we just had a head start. It took developed countries about 80 years to reduce fertility from more than 6 children to less than 3. Others are catching up fast. Malaysia and South Africa did it in only 34 years, Bangladesh took just 20. Iran managed it in 10 years. All these countries that are catching up didn't have to start from scratch, and the more support they get, the faster they catch up. This is why programs that help lower child mortality or help poor nations develop are so important. No matter what your motivation is, whether you dream of a world where all people live in freedom and wealth, or you just want fewer refugees coming to your country, the simple truth is that it's beneficial to you personally if people on the other side of the globe can live a good life. And we are getting there. The percentage of people living in extreme poverty has never been as low as today. So the future of global population growth is actually not an apocalyptic prophecy at all. It's a promise. Population growth will come to an end. The UN forecasts that the 12th billionth human will never be born at all. And as the development level of the world rises, the number of people with a higher education will increase tenfold. Countries who used to be in need will help advance development instead. More people is going to mean more people able to advance our species.
Pharmacy man ni siya, sa pharmacy man ni siya, ma'am, no? So, usay mo makasulti sa kadaghanan sa tao, sa population, nila. Kasi nakadaghan ang mga tao, karon sa yung mga kasulti, na daghan ang kanang tao.
Daghan na dito yung population na dito, daghan na dito ayo kay tungod ni dali ang mga bata kaya nabuntis na o anak na rin dati mo siya nabuntis na natugon experience na yes kuan 14 years old siya buntis na muna ni samot ang itong kadagan sa itong population
Kanang pharmacy man ni siya tinolen. Uso ba yung mga baligya nga mga contraceptive pills? Uso ba karon?
Ang pagkakas kay balik sila like pills, mga sabon, like baby pills, breast pills, not so kay sa pagkakas good pero sa bag niya naging palit sila, mga sila, mga bang palit gani
edad, ma'am? Pila ilang mga edad sa mga anak?
Siguro naasay mga ang pinaka ubos bilong edad na mo diri is kuan dawat ra ni 18 pinaka ubos diri is 60 man ano.
Kanang usap ko lang sa one month, pila kaya kasagaran ang mga anak dere?
Siguro sa amo karon nga month by January 1 to 15 mga naka 14 ni deliveries pero last year kuan abot siya og 30 pinakataas na mo is 60 pero depende sa na siya kay naman joy kanang month nga kanang anak ng anak tapos na po days nga month na wala siya mingaw sila ni anak.
Thank you, ma'am.
Napakalaki ng pinagbago kaysa noon dahil noon talaga walang polusyon, walang ganong mga building, walang mga estruktura na makikita sa paligid ng Maynila.
Nakaka-stress kasi laging traffic tapos laging mausok.
Mas malala na kaysa dati. Ang kondisyon ng environment natin ngayon, lumalala na dahil sa pagdami ng populasyon natin. Isa yun sa naging aspeto.
Hindi na ganong kalinis ang tubig, wala nang mga lunti ang puno.
Pangalawa, ang kawalan ng disiplina ng mga mamamayan. Kung saan nila tinatapon yung mga waste nila, kung saan nila tinatapon yung kalat nila, hindi nila iniisip na yung mga kalat na yun, magsasaki pala ng mas malalang kondisyon sa environment tulad ng pagbaha, natatakpan yung mga
At napalitan na ito ng mga establishmento sa iba't ibang lugar.
Wait lang. Pause mo na.
Nakaka-stress siya.
Para sa akin yung yung crime rate, poverty.
Siguro isa na dito yung pollution.
Sa tingin mo, anong pinaka-importanteng issue ang kinakaharap ng environment ngayon?
Poverty.
Kasi marami ng mga naghihirap ngayon, yung mga walang bahay na nakatira, yung mga informal settlers na nakatira sa mga lupa ng gobyerno. Kasi parang kahit saan ka pumunta, hindi na siya safe. Wala silang makain, hindi nag-aaral yung mga bata, palaboy-laboy lang.
Dahil siguro sa sa dami ng mga sasakyan, sa mga public or private vehicles na ginagamit ng mga tao ngayon, yun nakakadagdag sa pollution.
Tapos, hindi nagtatrabaho yung mga magulang, anak lang sila ng anak.
Because, kasi wala silang family plan.
Start ng cheat day na.
Teka lang. Hindi ko alam sasabihin ko.
Para sa akin, sa lahat ng parte ng bansa, ay ng lugar dito sa Pilipinas, hindi sapat yung natural resources para sa pangangailangan ng pagkain ng bawat ng tao. Kasi, especially dito sa Maynila, wala naman masyadong pananim dito. So, paano sila makakaasa sa natural resources? Kasi polluted dito. So, masasabi lang natin yan sa mga pollution. Malusolusyonan siguro yon kung depende kasi yan Sa panahon kasi ngayon, pera yung importante. Sa natural resources, karamihan probinsyano lang yung umaasa. Pero dito sa generation natin dito, hindi natin siya magagamit.
Sa aking opinion, sapat na yung natural resources ng bansa. Ang kailangan lang ay yung pag-push ng gobyerno. Hindi namin na natural resources natin. Feeling ko, hindi pa nila na-maximize. Hindi pa na-maximize ng gobyerno yung natural resources natin. Dahil pagkikunan nila ng pansin yung ibang bagay. Katulad din, ang daming corruption, ang daming problema sa gobyerno. Yan nilang napagkukunan ng pansin yung kung paano nga ba matutugunan yung mga pangangailangan ng mga walang makain. Ngayon naman dami tayong natural resources. Siguro, gumawa sila ng machineries ng mga bagong produkto na kung saan magkakaroon ng worth of living yung mga tao para magkaroon sila ng kabuhayan. Tapos, sino yung pangakain nila?
Huwag mag-anak ng mag-anak. Kasi yun yung reason kung bakit naghihirap yung Pilipinas. Isa sa mga rason. Kasi wala silang family planning. Nag-aanak-anak sila nang wala naman silang pantustos sa mga anak nila. Kaya, yung ganun lang ng ganun. Naghihirap yung Pilipinas.
Meron. Kasi kapag mas maraming tao, parang mas maraming trabaho. Pero hindi lang natin napapansin kasi mas inuuna natin yung pamumuno.
Para sa akin, ang responsable sa pollution, syempre tayong mga tao.
Para sa akin, sa tingin ko, ang mga tao na nasa gobyerno at mga tao na kagaya nating individual ay iisa lamang. Ang pinagkaiba nila ay yung posisyon na kanilang pinangangawakan. Kaya sa tingin ko, ang gobyerno at ang bawat individualidad sa Pilipinas ay parehas na may responsibilidad para sa ating bansa.
Kasi hindi natin pwedeng isisihin sa gobyerno kasi lahat tayo may sarili tayong desisyon at yung mga ginagawa nating desisyon, yun yung dahilan kung bakit malala yung pollution sa bansa natin.
Sa tingin ko, pag tinanong mong bakit, para sa ikakaunlad, ikagaganda at ikaaayos ng ating bansa. At humaba pa ang buhay ng mga tao na titira sa Pilipinas.
Ano ang magagawa mo para mapigilan ang paglala ng pollution?
Ako bilang tao, para mapigilan mo ang paglala ng polusyon, dapat magkaroon tayo ng disiplina
I think we should have campaigns for the beautification and improvement of our environment.
Siguro i-advise syempre dapat kumilos yung team government. And syempre, it should start with the people as well. Tapos i-advise ng government yung mga car companies na ilimit lang nila yung pagbebenta ng mga sasakyan para at least mabawasan yung pollution niya. Tapos, sana gawin ng government na, kunwari, may luma tayong mga sasakyan na nagbubuga na ng mga maitim na usok. Bilhin na lang nila ito. Bilhin na lang nila ito sa car owners, tapos bigyan sila ng pera para makabili ng bago.
Para maiwasan din ang traffic jam. Kasi yung smoke belching, isa yun sa mga nagpapalala ng air pollution eh. Kasi di ba usok, pati yung fossil fuels, dapat iwasan din natin yun sa mga train. Kaya nga may LRT na at saka MRT. Para doon sasakay, hindi na yung mga makaluma. Tapos, yun.
Okay, ma'am. How old are you when you give birth to your first child, ma'am?
I'm 20 at the time.
So on that time, ma'am, do you have work?
No, I don't have. Very independent with my parents.
Did you plan for the size of your family, ma'am?
Maybe. I forgot so young that time, but my husband and I wanted to have a big family.
Did you use contraceptive pills?
Yes.
Did you attend seminars about family planning, ma'am?
Yes, just once. At our pre-wed, a family planning seminar by LGU.
So, why you only have 2 children?
We can only afford 2 children. 2 children maybe is enough to provide their needs.
What are your plans for your children's future?
My plans is to give them a best education, a better future by guiding them all the way as they grow.
So now, ma'am, what is your advice to the young people who is watching right now?
My advice to the young one is to pray, study hard, conquer the world, fulfill your dreams, don't let anyone distract it, love at the early stage passes through. It's not real. Love yourself first by fulfilling your dreams and live life to the fullest.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Isang taon pa lang ako, nasundan na ni Toto. Grade 2, 8 taon pa lang, 4 na bata ang inaalagaan. Grade 6, 12 na ako, kasing dami na ng pamilya ko. Sabi mo, pasensya na, walang pera kaya mag-drop out ka. Inakup, sabi mo, kami mahal nyo. Ari ko, pati kayo nagplano. Sana hindi gutom at nag-aaral pa. Alaga't malusog ang buong pamilya.
Ang planadong buhay ay maayos na buhay.
Rachel, to your knowledge, what type of problems go hand in hand with population growth? Overpopulation, poverty, environmental issues. What will you choose?
I chose environmental issues.
Why?
Is that more population and people living in the same area growing, they will need to expand their cities to their surroundings so people can live there, and thus destroying the environment by cutting trees and destroying the habitats for animals.
Is population growth a problem?
Yes, it can cause pollution, poverty, and overpopulation. The bigger the population, the smaller the space of the land.